Welcome, everyone, to the 616. I am Corey Scott, and this guy over here is my buddy Gregor Sprague, and we collectively are the ElseNerds. 616 is our new show about comics, comic news, and whatever that spills over into. Be it pamphlets, collections, original graphic novels, minis, ash cans, newspaper strips, or digital. If it's a comic, we're interested. Gregor, how you doing today, buddy?
I've been good. How you been?
I'm doing pretty good. This is a first for us. We are finally officially doing a comic show that we've been talking about on our sister show-ish thing that just got turned into another show itself. So it's like our Bizarro sister show.
Yes. As I said on the Sci-Fi Geeks Club, which I think now that I mentioned it, I have to link to it now in the description. It is dead and gone. It is, what we're watching weekly is old news.
Old and busted.
Yes. The new hotness is what else is on, which the premiere, as I called it, will be Monday. The
So we're gonna have
premiere.
our official premiere. I actually feel kind of better about that because the show that we did this past Monday was just a little bit of a downer at the beginning, and I'm better with starting with something that hopefully isn't quite as dark. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe we'll have another Michael Bay movie announcement, and then we'll all be ticked off.
I mean, yeah. It was. I will say though, speaking of that, real quickly, because you're referring to, of course, Robin Williams' tragic passing.
Yes.
Seeing all the tributes was touching, and especially like now thinking about it, it made me think, I'm a weirdo. Why am I hiding the fact that I'm a weirdo? And one of my favorite ones is Disney just now played Aladdin, and at the end, like right after the end credits where they do the end, and the genie pulls up, Major look, and pulls it back down. They did like this nice stars thing in memory of Robin Williams thing, and it was great. I want to find a picture of that and just save it and make it my wallpaper for like ever.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that picture buzzing around on the Facebooks, so I don't think I'll have a hard time finding it.
Yeah.
It is interesting that you mentioned that you're a weirdo, because that's essentially what Robin Williams taught me in life, was that it's okay to be weird. And I was having kind of a lot of inflection this week about that. Great, we're going to start this show talking about this. Wonderful.
Well, no. I just wanted to mention it real quick, but this is not why. This is not the show to mention that. Because, at all.
Different kind of comic. Robin Williams was a different kind of comic.
Yes. This is the show to watch where we talk about comic books.
It is.
Yes. And so why don't we jump into the splash page?
All right, let's hit the news.
And I believe you have the first story.
Yeah, so the first, one of the bigger stories that is being talked about this week, and I should emphasize, even though we are called the 616, we are not a Marvel strictly comic podcast, but we are starting with some heavy Marvel news up front, because no one really had a lot of news this week besides them. So one of the first ones is the announcement that Brian Bendis made, saying that the storyline that they're planning on doing with Guardians of the Galaxy, which is the title that he's writing right now, revolves around Venom, who had recently joined the team, and his symbiote. They're going to the home planet for the symbiotes. According to Bendis, he said, I looked it up, and I was like, no, there's been a planet we've seen taken over by symbiotes, but have we not seen the planet of the symbiotes? I called Tom Brevoort, and I go, could it be that even in the craziness of the 90s, when it was Venom, Venom, Venom every 5 seconds, that this story had not been told? And he goes, yeah, we've never been there. And I'm like, now I have to do it. It's crazy. And we were just talking about this pre-show. I was not a big Venom reader or follower, and he's right. There was tons of Venom stories. There was Venom in Spider-Man, of course, the creation of the character with Eddie Brock and stuff. There was about 1,000 different miniseries, and then a regular series, and spin-off series with Carnage and other symbiotes and whatnot. But I always remember from Secret Wars when Spider-Man walks into a room after all the guys have gotten beaten on for a little while, and Thor is like, "Verily, I just had a new costume made over by yonder machine." I don't speak Thorish. And and so Spider-Man's like, "Oh, I'll go over to this machine." And they had introduced the Julie Carpenter version of Spider-Woman in this storyline as well. And she had a black and white costume. And so Spider-Man walks over to this machine, and this little blob pops out and crawls all over him and gives him a new costume. And it's black with the big white spider on it, the now famous, or infamous in some cases, black Spider-Man costume. And he's like, "Oh, I must have just thought of this instead of my own costume because I've seen this Spider-Woman popping around." But they got to it a little later. It didn't happen in that series where he started to be affected by the costume, where he realized it was a sentient being, and it was, replacing things. It was giving him enhanced abilities. It gave him natural web shooting as opposed to him having to use his web shooters and their cartridges and stuff and refill them. And he wound up having to fight it off. And then it later on got transferred over to a completely different character who hated Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this entire time, I guess it's kind of weird that they've never gone back to say who these symbiotes are, or where they came from, or why it was in just some weird machine in a not exactly a changing room, but a science laboratory in space. I'm trying to remember. It wouldn't have been the Beyonder yet, maybe. So it might have been the Game Master, somebody who had gathered them. But this amount of time to not have that origin sort of nailed out a little bit. It's one of the things that I thought when Bendis added the character to the team, that we would see more stuff having to do with the symbiote in space because that's where it came from. But I didn't realize that we hadn't gone to his planet before.
Yeah, it is weird to think about this, because usually whenever we get any new character any new character, we get their origins. I mean, like, we're getting that now in Amazing Spider-Man. Or like with Silk, basically she's, and I'm blanking on her name, but she is she was bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker, and she's what's kicking off Spider-Verse, or she's what's helping kick off Spider-Verse. She's what's drawing Moreland out. And you're also sort of not burying the lead, but you're skipping over the other thing here, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy is also going to get its first full-time artist in the Marvel Now, and that's Valerio's Skitty. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, as someone who has a very hard name to butcher, which maybe that's why you skipped that part. And you're going to.
I'm just saying it made it less embarrassing for me.
Yeah. And this starts in Guardians of the Galaxy issue number 21, and it'll be a 3-issue arc. So it'll probably be comboed in with another story, with another 3-issue series. And it's just going to be really great. Probably like a Carol Danvers issue, since they're the two people who have been added to the crew. And this is just going to be really great. I mean, I haven't seen anything else by Valerio. I'm going to stick with her first name. Not going to fall for that trap again. And but but this is just going to be pretty exciting. And I mean, I'm a big Guardians fan. I mean, with all the stuff And this actually ties in with our second story. And again, while I am a Marvel fanboy, we will play fair and balanced here, folks. Us at the 616 at the ElseNerds Network and on the 616 show. And story 2 is
there are words that I never want to hear is fair and balanced when it means you're actually going to be fair and balanced.
But we will not play favorites.
No, we're gonna play favorites. We're absolutely gonna let's back that up. We are gonna play favorites because you have favorites and I have favorites. But we're gonna try to diversify.
Yes, correct.
Let's go with that.
Yes, we're not gonna sit here and go, hey guys, August is Marvel month, or something like that.
Yeah, unless Marvel makes it Marvel month, and then we can't do anything about it. Step up, DC. Oh, go ahead.
But story number 2 comes from, or the other story I should say, because we're only doing 2 stories. Rocket Raccoon tops July in the best-selling comic books. This coming from Blaster.com, and Diamond Distributors has released the data for the number 1, and the number 1 comic didn't come from the Avengers. Or it wasn't any one of the 50 million Avengers books. It wasn't an X-Men book, and it wasn't a Spider-Man's. No, it was Rocket Raccoon number 1. Now I typed out all the top 10s, and let's do this David Letterman style. So, number 10 was Harley Quinn number 8. Now this might get a little confusing here, so try to stick with me here. Number 9 goes to the legendary Star-Lord. You know, Peter Quill. It's the number 1. So the
other spin-off Guardians book.
Yeah, the other spin-off actually. Grayson number 1 Spirals. Haha, play on words. Spelled Spyrals. His way into number 8. Justice League number 32 is at number 7. And this is the one with Lex Luthor in it. This is that Justice League.
Yep.
Original Sin number 6 at number 6. Spider-Man 2099 number 1 makes its way into the top 5 at number 5. Original Sin number 5 is at number 4.
Confusing.
Oh, it gets worse. I'm like, it's like the Connected Lines game here. Amazing Spider-Man number 4 is at number 3. Batman number 33 is in the runner-up spot, and Rocket Raccoon, as the headline suggests, is the winner at number 1, the premier issue of Rocket Raccoon.
Now, as I understand it, a big thing about the Rocket Raccoon issue is that it wasn't just direct sales; it was also that I think 150,000 were for Loot Crate, which is, but still, I mean, we're looking at 150,000. Taken off that number, it is a giant number of books left over that Rocket Raccoon.
The number, and I believe this is an S. This is not I believe this is totaled for the month. Comic sales totaled $53.6 million, and this also hold on, there was another number in here that amazed me. The July numbers beat the previous high of 50.32 million set in October of 2013. With a month led by Walking Dead 115, Batman 24, Infinity number 4, Forever Evil 2, and Infinity number 5. And the top top trade that paperback collection that month was Batman Volume 3, Death of the Family. So back then, it was fairly similar here, except for no new books.
Yeah.
If you look at it, like in the top 5, especially in the top 5, like if you went back in and looked at the top 10, it was still probably no new books. But you look at the top 10 list for there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new books in there total.
A lot of number ones, which is
Yeah.
good. And also just look at the titles that are there. I mean, Justice League you would expect to be in a top 10 because it is a premier book for DC. You would say Spider-Man 2099 just because of the fact that it is Spider-Man has some reason to be there at a number one. Amazing Spider-Man, which is pretty cool. But then you look at things like Harley Quinn, who has been in the top 10 the last few months, which is just amazing for a character of that level to not only make the top 10 on her first books, but to be maintaining it consistently since. Legendary Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon, though, are characters that, have a movie. Let's face it, they have a movie. But they're still just so not known by the mainstream public. To see the amount of following they're getting and stuff like that, it's a real tribute to what Marvel's films have done. And I think the Rocket Raccoon thing, more than anything, it owes a lot to Scotty Young. Because it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to give you a Rocket Raccoon series. It's another thing to say, we're going to give you one that is just super over-the-top fun and cartoony with amazing original art in a take that you've not seen with this character before. It's just so fantastic and so cool. And it couldn't happen to a better creator anyways. I'm super excited by the book, just as much as I am by the film.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's really, really cool to see, and I hope that the book continues to go up. As I saw recently, the advance reorders for issue number 2 are very high. I think they're number 2 on the advance reorder list. I don't remember what number 1 is exactly, but so that still bodes pretty well for it.
Yeah, number 2 is pretty good. If we had done this a week before, my review would probably be and we'll get to segment 2, but basically, it would be a sub. Like we're doing sub or snub, it would be a sub.
Yeah.
Out of it, I mean, it's a great story. And even it's Scotty Young, I don't think is doing the art for it. I think it's someone else doing the art. But still, it's a great. Oh my gosh, it was a great montage scene that they had of a jailbreak, and cool. It was so cool. And I would be surprised if it's not number 1, it's number 2 or number 3. And that's just because they didn't have Loot Crate behind it. That would be the only reason why it's number 2 or number 3. Then we know it was Loot Crate numbers that made it number 1. And then
Loot Crate numbers definitely don't hurt.
Yeah. And then I included in here the trade paperback numbers. Walking Dead All Out War Part 2 is at the top, which I sort of figured because usually Walking Dead is in the top 5. And I only included the top 5 on this one because, well, top 10 is pretty typical.
Yeah.
In here, the rest of the top 5, you have Avatar: The Last Airbender Volume 8, Rift Part 2, Deadly Class Volume 1, Reagan Youth out of Image, Saga Volume 1 which is, I don't think, has that left the top 5, to be honest.
Saga has been consistently in the top 10, I think, for a long time. And it's funny because we're talking about the first volume still.
Yeah.
Because there are those people who come in who are just now still hearing about Saga and are picking it up, or they're picking it up for friends, or like, hey, I got to get you started on this and stuff. But the Saga volumes, I think Volume 3 is also in the top 10.
It's number 7.
Yeah, number 2 wasn't there this month, but that's still pretty incredible.
Oh yeah. And then wrapping up the top 5, Brian Lee O'Malley's Seconds. I think from Random House is the publisher.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading Seconds because it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see something from Brian Lee O'Malley post the Scott Pilgrim
yeah.
books to see what he does. I've heard really great things about this book. It certainly you're going to get people excited just to see him doing another original graphic novel, but
Yeah,
I haven't had a chance to check that one out yet.
yeah. And then some other notable, some real quick, some other notables. Like we mentioned, Saga was number 7. Batman Volume 1 from the New 52, The Court of Owls, which is really great, is number 9, and Lazarus Volume 2 by Greg Rucka, Lift, from Image is number 10, to wrap up the graphic novels section, or the trade paperbacks, the graphic novels and trade paperbacks as they're called. All this from DiamondComics.com. But yeah, so that's our stories section. Move on to segment 2, our sub or snub section. And Corey, do you want to cover our first one, Sensation Comics number 1?
Yeah. Now, okay, let's talk about this a little bit because Sensation Comics is not something you're going to be able to go pick up at your local comic store yet. And it is a digital-first title from DC Comics. It is brought to us by Gail Simone, who I am a big fan of. I've been a big fan of for a long time, and has had some complications in the New 52. It seems so far. She just finished her run on Batgirl off this week as well, which we'll talk about that in a second. But doing a digital-first comic with Ethan Van Sciver, and they've talked about a book that they've been working on together for a while, but I don't think this is it still. I think that this book that they keep hinting at, and have hinted at since the New 52 has started, still hasn't been announced. But this one came up, and Ethan was the one who was approached about the book first, and they said, well, who would you want to work on this with? And he said, oh, obviously it would be Gail. You know, perfect world, it would be Gail writing it and me doing the art. And they do really make a good team together. They did the opening storyline for Firestorm in the New 52 together as well. And it's really funny if you know the backgrounds of each of them sort of politically and stuff, how they're at total odds with each other, but they're very respectful. They're both interesting, funny creators. But so the book itself is not New 52. It's very outside of that realm, and it doesn't state specifically that it's the old Earth either. But we have seen so far characters in roles that they just couldn't be in this current version.
No, yeah, definitely, because I read this too because I saw that and I'm like, wait, I remember seeing this. And so I picked it up and I'm reading this and I'm like, that's Barbara Gordon. But she's
Barbara Gordon as Oracle.
Yeah, not Batgirl, who I will talk about here later. And so I'm like, well, let's keep reading, folks.
Yeah, and I read the issue, and I don't remember them actually ever specifically saying anything like any kind of editor's comments about it not being New 52. But it's pretty blatant on that first page that, hey, here's Barbara, and she is back in her old role, which was a great role. And I saw Gail talk about this in an article, how the world needs that Oracle character, and there's some inside baseball on this where she wasn't necessarily excited about taking Barbara out of the Oracle role, at least not completely writing it off, which is what the New 52 did. Obviously, Barbara has had some sort of accent, probably relating to the Joker, and lost her ability to walk for a while, but they never had an Oracle version of Barbara. So, yeah, there was a thing with the Smallville book that's been coming out by Brian Q. Miller, who wrote the Stephanie Brown Batgirl series back before the New 52 launched. And there was a point where they were introducing Batman into the Smallville mythos, and he was teamed up with a Batgirl as opposed to a Robin, and the Batgirl was originally supposed to be Stephanie Brown. And the hammer came down after it had been announced and everything, and they recolored her hair, and they said, no, it can't be Stephanie Brown, it has to be Barbara Gordon. And it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, well, this isn't in the New 52 continuity at all, so why can't he do what he's choosing to do with this? It's not like you're suddenly going to bring back the Smallville TV show or make a Smallville movie, so why can't he use the character that he wants to use? But it was just some weird thing. They took Stephanie Brown out of a couple different things where she was supposed to be in. There was even I think in the Batman book, Little Gotham, if that's what it was called. I think that's what it was. That was sort of like small-bodied figures of Batman and all the different characters and stuff. And in a Halloween sketch or something, there was somebody who was dressed up as a Stephanie Brown Batgirl, and that she had blonde hair, and then they recolored it to give her orange hair because they were like, nope, can't be blonde, can't be Stephanie, until they introduced Stephanie in Batman Eternal. So, okay, we all sort of got what we wanted, so we can't complain too much. We were like, oh, we need Stephanie Brown back, we need Stephanie Brown back. We have a Stephanie Brown as spoiler again, but it is a lot of weird moves. So to see this move is intriguing. Otherwise, it's a Wonder Woman book, and we can talk about Wonder Woman in it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, it was interesting to see, you really only see Barbara Gordon for, like, what is it, like, 3 pages? And then it's her thoughts as she's going, like, who do I pick? Flash? Nope. Hal Jordan? Nope. Too cosmic or too spacey. Superman? No, he's too high. Yeah, too noble.
Too noble.
Yeah, too noble. Wonder Woman, perfect.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we're gonna follow Wonder Woman as she's going through Gotham, doing things her way, and all this stuff, and kicking butt and taking names her way, and all this stuff, and then it ends with her backup, with the rest of her Amazons coming in, and I'm like, all right, and it does sort of, to me, almost skate this line of New 52, not New 52 in a way, like, because, like, it's, to me, it's, I do think it is before New 52, because it would have been like, it would have definitely been like the New Gods and stuff. Because if they were doing Wonder Woman, because they would have contacted like Brian Azzarello, and all this stuff, and or they would have been from like Paradise Island or something like that.
Well, in the New 52, as I understand it, the Amazons are kind of closed off. We don't have access to them. They've all been either killed or turned into stone or something. I don't remember exactly that far back in the beginning when they introduced what happened to the Amazons and what's going on with Wonder Woman. But yeah,
from what I understand, the Amazons are on their island is like Paradise Island or whatever, and I guess they can have male babies. It's just they're sent off in secret. And they actually have a YouTube video out now where it's from DC. It's like cover to cover, like all up to date. And I watched it, and I'm like, ooh, this is making me want to get all the comics now.
Ooh, you should post a link to that.
Yeah.
After the show. But,
yeah, I will.
No, I mean, just in general, didn't the series start off with Wonder Woman basically, like, her mom and all of the Amazons are dead, and that's when she found out that Zeus was actually her father, and the whole thing with Paradise Island is closed off because there's been no real Amazon interaction since then, It's Wonder
Yeah,
Woman protecting this other character and her baby and dealing with the other gods and stuff. But I thought that the
mhm.
Amazons had been kind of like wiped out to a certain degree in the new continuity.
Yeah, there was that. They thought that Wonder Woman was made out of clay.
Right.
So tying into another one of her origins. Um, but it was actually that she was Zeus's daughter. Um, and then like there's so many other things, but I do think that they're doing with Sensation Comics #1 that they're doing it is pre 52 or pre New 52,
It
which
would
is
be it would be interesting to see them actually say that.
yeah.
Now they did the Superman series, the Adventures of Superman series, which just read up, which I think it was also a digital first book. And that was a lot of stories that weren't necessarily in continuity. DC has had this other thing that they've been basically saying, which is leading into multiversity coming up, where each of the different worlds that they show is supposed to be one of the 52 Earths. So anytime they show an Earth, they say, well, this is Earth 28, or this is Earth. It used to be that there were Earths with letter designations. There was an Earth S, there was Earth C, which Captain Carrot was from, and Earth C minus with just a lot of animals. But with the new 52, they each have a number designation, and we've lost Earth Prime, which is what the pre-new 52 Earth was. Was it Earth 1? Or I don't know. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if in the series, I didn't really read the Adventures of Superman book, if they had really kind of placed that these stories were taking place on specific Earths, or if they're just like, it doesn't matter, it's not in continuity at all. That's the thing, is I would prefer it not to be so strictly ruled.
Hmm.
DC has always had a multiverse until they didn't, and they got rid of it. But then when they got rid of it, they did Elseworlds, which guess what this show is sort of named after. Um, and with the Elseworlds, it wasn't about it's this Earth, it's this Earth, it's this Earth. It's just these are alternate history stories where, in this case, Batman got bitten by a vampire and turned into one, and is just really creepy gothic. Or Batman by Gaslight, or Superman Red Sun, where he landed in Russia as opposed to in Kansas. There have been so many of these stories over time, and they're kind of picking and choosing now and saying, well, that's this Earth, or that's this Earth. And again, this is going to come up in multiversity. But it didn't matter before. It was just, hey, these other stories aren't in your regular continuity. You don't have to read these other books to understand what happened, but you might get something out of it if you did. This just sort of stands on its own 2 feet and exists in this way, and it's cool. You should read it and enjoy it as just as, what if this happened? What if
Yeah.
a Marvel kind of thing? And Marvel has their own multiverse because their regular world is the 616. Oh, I wonder where that title comes into play here. So I'm just going to like the book as the book. I
Yeah.
think it's cool to get to see Gale
It's
get to
when I
world
say
build.
yeah, and when I say it's more like the style, because you look at the Joker's in here, and it's not creepy. It's not this Joker. This
It's
Joker
not
in here.
face peeled off.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
not the face peeled off Joker. It's more Batman the Animated Series Joker.
The
Where
Penguin is definitely more classic Penguin. That
yes,
was the one that kind of threw me. I was like, oh, this is old school Penguin.
yes, it's Mr. Freeze is more old school. It's more the old school styled characters in here. What you look at Wonder Woman, it's more closer to I'm blanking on the actress's name. Um,
Uh, Linda Carter.
yeah, Linda Carter. It's the outfit looks more like the Linda Carter TV show
Then a
outfit
Gal Gadot.
than the Gal Gadot. Then definitely than the Gal Gadot or the Superman Wonder Woman outfit or the Justice League War cartoon movie outfit or the New 52 outfits that you see. That's what I'm saying. Then, like comparing it to New 52 or pre-New 52, it's like if you look at them, like in styles. That's what I'm saying with this.
Yeah.
um, more than like, oh, let's place it here. It has to belong somewhere. I'm saying you look at Mr. Freeze is in here. You look at it, it's like, and because I don't think Mr. Freeze has really been in, at least from what I've noticed from reading. I haven't seen Mr. Freeze in New 52, but
Oh, he exists in the New 52. They've gotten rid of a lot of his origin that relates mostly to the animated series. It's a little
yeah,
different now. Um,
yeah,
what do you think of the storyline though of having Wonder Woman come in and kind of sweep through Gotham because Oracle feels like it's a problem that Batman can't solve essentially, and so she calls in someone else to come in. This is sort of a conundrum with having a superhero universe
hmm,
is that when you have Superman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and all these other heroes who are hugely powerful, what happens to a Batman who exists? You know, Gotham is my city, and I take care of all the crimes, but they're horrific criminals, and it's like, oh, we're just gonna ignore this little patch outside of Manhattan here, and let the crazy dude in the bat costume take care of it. It's like, at some point, someone's gonna come by and say,
yeah.
Bruce, Bruce, dude.
What's
You
funny?
know, maybe you have screwed up really bad. You
Yeah,
keep losing teenagers. You haven't really gotten rid of this one whack job who poisons fish and water supplies and stuff. I kind of feel like that old Red Cape over there can do it for you.
yeah. Um, what's funny is this seems a lot like the plot, which I will get a lot more in depth to in um to the movie Batman Under the Red Hood. To be honest,
Okay.
because I watched that um Wednesday or something. Um, yeah, Wednesday when I went with my mom and grandma to uh, Western Michigan to go to the lighthouses and stuff. And so I loaded up my tablet and I took my laptop and stuff and I loaded up with a whole bunch of the DC animated movies, or as much as I could. I'd keep swapping them off, like, okay, I watch this, and I'll load up the next one, and all that stuff, which is great. I mean, I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, what's the next one I can watch? And I watched that one, and it's a very similar plot because um, Red Hood, who is Jason Todd, he's like, I'm gonna do what you can't, because Batman, what's his classic thing? He doesn't kill. Because
Right.
if he kills, then he's no better than the Joker, which
Right.
sort of deal. So I feel like this might be a conclusion that they will get to. Is
Well, I don't see Wonder Woman coming in and killing people.
well,
But
yeah, but I mean, if this is a thing that I could see them going down to is Batman coming in there is like, what are you going to start killing now? Are you gonna stoop to their level?
no, I think if I have an understanding of the characters, which I mean we all think that we do. We've read the comics enough and we've seen
Hmm.
the stories enough. We all think we know the right choices. I think if anything, it'll come down to it's a delicate ecosystem.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman exists in a world where she fights gods and she fights big strong creatures and stuff like that. But there is a darkness that Gotham hits that I don't think your average other hero can just walk into. And also, when you look at something like the Joker really is counterbalanced to Batman.
Hmm.
And you set the Joker against somebody else, I think the Joker is going to do things in a way that are going to shock that other hero.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe take that other hero down because they underestimate them. They've had some stories with Superman before where he's fought Batman villains and been kind of taken aback of like, I can't believe I would have thought that this is easy. He's just a guy in a purple suit and clown makeup, but no, this is really screwed up. So now this is a Wonder Woman book, and a Wonder Woman book is supposed to uplift Wonder Woman as a character, but you can't bring a character in and break someone else's story too.
Hmm.
So having Wonder Woman succeed makes it look really bad for Batman in his own books, and it kind of takes his power away. So they have to, and I trust Gale and Ethan. I think they'll probably figure it out. But there is that initial moment of, yeah, what would happen if we just called in the cavalry? So, and I think that probably leads into the next review you have up, which is Batgirl. But just real fast,
Yep.
what did you think? Are you going to keep reading on this? Or are you interested in the book?
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested in the book. It's definitely going to be something I will read. But yeah, this does go, and I think I am going to go in reverse order because I sort of did that one third. But yeah, I'll do this. Let's go right in. Stick on the Gail Simone train here, and let's go Batgirl number 34. The final issue done by Gail Simone on Batgirl. This is the issue that I call Batgirl gets her smile back. Because it was at the end you saw this issue was actually called Crash and Burn. And I didn't actually know that Batgirl got her smile back, but this was the big fight between Batgirl and Huntress, But this was the big fight with Batgirl, Huntress, and Black Canary against Nightfall, the big villain with this last story arc, where you just saw Nightfall just in this last story arc just taking it to Batgirl at every turn. Like, Batgirl thought she had Nightfall this turn, and then nope, like she would get out of it. And this actually, this is where Barbara Gordon finally started to think like Batman. Like, this is where you finally saw her thinking like Batman and not just going out and just going out with emotion.
Yeah, I mean, Barbara Gordon in the New 52, a lot of people have had arguments about the quality of the stories and stuff, but I don't think what they realized is that Barbara Gordon has been pretty inexperienced in her superhero career in this new continuity. I mean, she was Batgirl at one point. She got injured apparently pretty early on because there's only been 5 years of continuity, or maybe 6 years now, in the storyline. So she was obviously sidelined for a while. Now, during that time, she could still develop a lot of her other skills if that was what she was practicing. We don't have a lot of information about that point.
You see... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You see her calling in favors with I'm assuming with the Birds of Prey, with this one girl that she went to college with. I'm blanking on her name. And then...
Is that the Obscura character?
Yeah, Obscura. I think that's who it was. And then at the end, when she finally to even the playing field, because what would happen is Barbara Gordon would, or Batgirl and like Strix and all these other ones, and all of her other friends would take down a Nightfall house, like little hangout area, and they would just fully, like, all the other clubs would just like up and move, sort of deal. And so they decide they're going to take them all out at the same time. Yes. Sort of deal. And so after Babs defeats Nightfall, and Nightfall reveals, and she like full on psychologically defeated Nightfall as well, like making Nightfall realize that she didn't kill or whatever. Like, so much so that Nightfall takes off her mask and like starts crying. Nightfall goes up to Barbara and reveals that she didn't kill her brother, James Gordon. And that's the moment where Barbara gets her smile back, and I'm like, this is how we get happy Barbara. This is how we get the happy Barbara that we talked about in Watching Weekly, like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
The Batgirl 35, the new creative team that's coming in?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Now, is it too bad that it took 34 issues to be able to get to that Barbara, especially when it seems like... I'm not saying Gail wanted to write a happy-go-lucky Babs dancing in the moonlight kind of storyline necessarily, because Gale does some good dark.
Yeah.
But she has said that she felt some push from above that Barbara had to be acting a certain way and treated a certain way, and certain things had to happen, and she couldn't make the levity and stuff that she wanted to also have in the book. But that said, I mean, we get a lot of closure
Yeah.
on Gale's storyline, which includes the things with her brother James, where she thought she had killed him, and that put a big rift between her and her dad. We also get some weird pre-New 52 feel with a character that I was amazed to see in this, which was Misfit.
Yeah, this is where, I mean, I'm probably most interested to see the New 52 stuff with her and Batman, to be honest. Out of all of them right now, and then maybe a distant third with Green Lantern. Just because it's like, ooh, Black Lanterns. Like that's how it's going for me right now. Like with all this Futures End stuff, I'm like, I'm so iffy with the Futures End stuff. And it's, but
Do you recognize the Misfit character though? Did you
I
know
didn't.
anything about that character? Okay,
No.
so in the Birds of Prey book that Gale wrote again before the relaunch and stuff, which is a really great run. Birds of Prey the entire time was a pretty amazing book, including the original start by Chuck Dixon going through some other creators. I think Terry Moore did a couple storylines in there too at some point. But Misfit was a character that joined in maybe the last couple of years before we hit the relaunch or reboot. And she's the one who screams Dark Vengeance and comes out in sort of the homemade Batgirl fan costume.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she is not, to my knowledge, appeared in the New 52 so far. She is exactly what I thought when I first saw the new Batgirl concept art and stuff. I'm like, oh, that looks more like Misfit. You know, it feels like the Stephanie Brown Batgirl in the fun aspect of it, but it looks like it could be Misfit because Misfit looks like a semi-youngish version of Barbara. Or Batgirl might, in a certain way. She actually has a power. She has a teleportation power and stuff. But overall, we didn't get to find out a lot about the character. She was just, you know, this kind of like uplifting spirit in the midst of some really dark stuff going on with Birds of Prey. There would be this girl screaming Dark Vengeance at everybody. And I really, really want to go back and read that Misfit stuff again. So I don't know if this means that Gale will be able to use her or if she'll show up in other things now. But it was kind of a nice throwback to everybody who were like, you know, I loved Gale's writing when she could cut loose and she could do all these things. And holy crap, in the last month of Batgirl, she gave us Misfit again. She gave us a feel of what she did with a lot of her Birds of Prey stuff, which was the gathering of the other heroes, especially the other female heroes. So we get characters like Starfire and Fairchild, who Gale has written Fairchild. She wrote Gen 13 for a while at Wildstorm before it got integrated into DC. She threw in pretty much almost every character you could think of except for Wonder Woman in this, which is kind of funny. But it is that same sort of thing again. It's like, I couldn't solve this with Batman's help, so I called in all these other people. How is Batman going to react to this? That's almost the hard part about having so many characters that are Gotham/Batman based, is that there gets to be points in times where it's like, you're in Gotham, you got Batman there. Why aren't you involving Batman? And I'm assuming at some point in the storyline they put some rift between her and Bruce to explain why she's not contacting him and why she had to go to this other character to call in all these. And that's the other thing too, is that in a history with Oracle, Oracle could call these people in on her own. But
Yeah.
we're in a storyline where she doesn't have that ability on her own, which explains why she doesn't do it any given time of like, oh, I'm hitting a wall on this, I should just call in every female member from the Justice League ever.
Yeah. So here's Dark Vengeance right
Yes.
there, if I can get it. Or not Dark Vengeance, Misfit. I was looking through, and actually I also saw what made Nightfall help and actually bring back Barbara's smile, and it was Barbara talking sense into Nightfall by showing her a picture of her family, of Charisse's family, who had died, and she's, I'm actually going to quote it here. It's your family, Charisse. I don't know about heaven or the afterlife, but what if they are watching you? You know, like that, and that's just one panel here, and basically saying like, hey, what if your family's watching you right now? Would they appreciate what you're doing? You crazy psycho.
Yeah, crazy. Well, my family would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So that it was an interesting close. It seemed like she cleaned stuff up. She definitely set things to move forward for the next storyline with a new
Yeah.
creative team. She had Barbara decide that she's going to move, but she invited her roommate to go along with her.
I honestly thought for a second that she was going to tell her roommate that she was Batgirl. I'm sitting there reading it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is she going to tell her roommate that she's Batgirl? And then I'm like, of course not. As they said, I'm like, why would I think that? Come on, seriously?
That happens a lot in comics. That's definitely one of those things. You have someone who's around you so much, eventually you're going to start to either get wise, or you're going to have to explain yourself so many times you get tired of it. Like, look, I hate keeping secrets from you anyways. You're my best friend. You're my boyfriend. You're my girlfriend. You're my wife. You're Lois Lane, who's supposedly an ace reporter. Boy, this one's going to put you in your place. I'm Superman. You should have noticed that. It really seems like you're not very good at your job if you didn't notice that. Yeah. I can understand that would have been a place to go, but it also makes sense that she didn't do that because of the fact that she wants to leave some sense of order for the next team to come in and give them the ability to decide these things. They're at least using the character, the roommate character, whose name, unfortunately, I cannot remember off the top of my head, which is nice, but I don't think she's going to be the roommate anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of her name either. And I already exited out of there.
That's
so I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I couldn't tell you either.
So
yeah, we
can't really say sub or snub on this one because
it's the end. I would say probably pick up the trade, to be honest.
I would like to go back and read Batgirl as one long run now and get to see what Gale did with it. I had stepped away from the New 52 for a period of time.
Yeah.
And there are books that I'd like to go back and check out at this point now.
So I'm gonna go with I'm actually gonna do 3, 2, 1 blast off. And do Captain Marvel #6 by, and I forgot to number which issue that was, but Captain Marvel #6 by Kelly Sue DeConnick and David Lopez. This is part 6. I think it's the final in the story arc of Higher, Further, Faster, More. The Higher, Further, Faster, More story arc.
Sounds like a Daft Punk song.
Yeah, Higher, Further. And this was a fantastic story. This is just, to me, classic Captain Marvel. And I'm not talking DC, I am talking Marvel, Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers, to be honest. This is classic Carol, to be honest. And this is where I declare that I am a member of the Carol Corps right now. I am full like I since reading. I'm actually gonna skip ahead. The art by David Lopez for me is on par. It's a close second for me, just below Dexter Soy's art in the very first story arc. Like with the launch of Captain Marvel, the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel. Like for me, it was just that good. And I'm like, and you remember me talking about this, like how I loved that art. And like, so just seeing this, I'm like, ooh, just so good. And this is the, I believe it is. I couldn't find it on Wikipedia, but I believe this is that art. And actually, now that I'm home, I probably could go grab the comic book and go, yes, is this the one? Actually, I think I might. Oh, actually, you're searching it, so you probably tell me if it is or not. But this is the climactic end of the battle between the peaceful people on the planet Tofu, or not Tofu, Torfu.
That would be great. The planet Tofu. Someone has to use that right now.
On Torfu, these are all refugees from the gosh, what was it? We just talked about it on from last year. The last I think it was Infinity. That were the builders blew up that plant, the ring world.
Right.
They all ended up here, and the Spartax Empire and Jason, and Carol, being the stubborn mule that she is, she's just like, I'm gonna avenge her first. I'm not leaving. I'm gonna stay here and defend you and help defend you guys because you guys are pretty much defenseless. And that's basically what she did. I mean, Kelly Sue DeConnick just shows how great she is at writing Carol Danvers in this. I mean, to be honest, Brian Michael Bendis needs to step up his game because he's the other one writing her right now in Guardians. Kelly's doing it better.
now let's be fair though, because Bendis wrote House of M, which was the storyline that was basically led to Carol stepping up into the role of Captain Marvel more and saying that she should be a big player. That was the storyline where Bendis kept saying Carol should be up there with Tony and Steve and Thor and all these guys. She should be a major player in our universe. Without saying it, it was basically like she should be our Wonder Woman.
And
there's no reason why she hasn't been. So he set a lot of the groundwork to allow Carol to have her own series.
And that's true. And
credit where it's due.
But what I'm saying right now is, out of right now, Kelly Sue is doing a better job in using. Now, granted, it's a single person book compared to a group book.
Right.
But these past couple of issues where it's been, like you compare this book to, the last issue of Guardians, which was basically Peter Quill and Captain Marvel. So it was just basically those two people. Still, this book has been better.
Well, and also he hasn't written Carol in a while, and Kelly Sue's been on it, through her last series and now the new series and stuff, and she's thinking Carol all the time. And you're right, you hit on it when you said that it's a team book versus a single character book. A team book, you almost deal with characters as archetypes. If you're lucky, you get to have those real defining character moments in that. But with a single character book, you get to focus on their inner thoughts, the things that drive them, everything a lot more in detail. I'm not going to say that I don't like Kelly Sue's writing more than Bendis's in general, because maybe I kind of do. But I want to just point out that Bendis is working under different terms, and
No, yeah, definitely.
he deserves some credit.
Oh no. He gives. I'm not bashing Bendis at all.
You can.
But yeah, But what I'm saying. But no, I'm not bashing him at all because he's doing some great. I love what he's doing. I love what he's doing on Guardians, on All New X-Men, on all the books that he's doing. He's doing some of the TV shows over on Disney XD. I love all the stuff he's doing. But I think with using Carol Danvers.
So what you're saying is Bendis has spread himself a little thin, and no wonder his books suck. Okay, shots fired. I get it.
Join the conversation, folks. And you can send your complaints to @ElseNerds. But no. And I do believe this is the end of the story arc, and they're going to start a new story arc. With issue 7. But yeah, so this is again, and this is me probably being a little too fanboyish with Captain Marvel. And again, probably because I named my fantasy football team, and I did change it from the Ponyville Phillies, but to the Carol Corps. So I am a little bit biased, but this is a definite sub for me. Like, if you are not picking up Captain Marvel, what are you doing? Go out there and get it. There's 6 issues in this series. Go get it.
Just so we clarify, issues 7 and 8 look like they're going to have a guest artist step in, and it relates to Captain Marvel and her cat in space. So that actually, to me, looks like a pretty good storyline for me to jump into.
I hope that the ship that they're on has a robot pet feeder, because you don't want to see Captain Marvel feeding that cat. Like, not even like a panel like going, "Here, kitty, come here, come get your food."
Well, I don't know if you've watched a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson stuff, but you've obviously never heard of space guppies. They're everywhere, man.
Yes, and then of course there are such things as the Babblefish, which help you with translations.
Oh, nice reference. Pull that in. I was actually going to make a reference about a whale and petunias, but that's good. That's good. You took it.
Yes. And then my last review, which was going to be my first review, until I realized, oh hey, Ghostman, there's a tie-in, and which you got it first. Is Sex Criminals number 7, which I thought maybe you would have saw it first and we could have discussed this one a little bit, but
didn't get to make the comic story yet.
Yes. So I'm gonna spoil it a little bit. This was a little bit like Scott Pilgrim,
or a little bit rock and roll. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it was a little bit like Scott Pilgrim to me in reading this. Like, some of the stuff that they did was like a little bit like sort of like Scott Pilgrim, like, this is where Scott Pilgrim, does this. But I'm gonna start off with right here. I love the sex tips. I freaking love the sex tips.
For no reason alone, Sex Criminals will always get a sub from us because of the sex tips and the letters pages.
Yep. I'm gonna share this one right here. Pre-ejaculate is nature's lubricant, so feel free to try. I can't even finish it without laughing.
Well, you don't have to finish with pre-ejaculate. That's the whole point.
But no, so feel free to drag your freshly erect penis along your bike chain every few months.
And there goes the family-friendly reader tag on our show.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Denying your partner satisfaction can be a real turn-on for both of you. Blindfold your partner, tease them with light touches, and then move to a new city.
There have been times when, not necessarily for that reason alone, that I have left town. Okay, so the book itself.
Yes. The other reason, or the first thing, and I showed my mom this, is the splash page. Now, not our news segment, but the actual legit splash page to sex criminals, where it's the like the description of the book, where it's Susie and John go, if it will load, come on. When they have sex, they can go or they can freeze time, or at least slow it way, like have like 50 A's. When they come together, time stops, or at least slows way in like 20 million A's down. They're not alone. And then basically, I love the book. That's aside from the sex tips. Aside from that, and if you don't know, Sex Criminals is written by Matt Fraction, and drawn by, I think, all the art. I think he does the coloring too, by Chip Zdarsky. This one, it's told through both perspectives by Susie and John. Yeah, it starts with Susie, and there's a point where she finally tells her best friend, that she about her ability to enter the quiet.
Oh, so the scene you're looking for in Batgirl happened in Sex Criminals.
Yes. And
does that mean that we'll get Sex Criminal scenes in No.
No. There's a funny moment though, because and I will show you the page, because her friend goes, well, why are you running a bath? Why can't you just think of your boyfriend and diddle yourself or whatever? And she's like, well, so if you're going to do this, why don't you draw penises on my face? She doesn't even finish the sentence.
Oh, God.
She doesn't even finish the sentence. And I got to adjust. And
I get the gist of it, yes.
And booyah. Done.
There's the dick on my face, isn't there? Thank you, 10 Things I Hate About You.
20. To go on. And then, as she's washing him off, John comes in carrying, like, basically what could be described as a whole bunch of stuff that you would get from a press release for Saints Row the Third. You know, because they had the big purple dildo bat.
I did not know that. Apparently, I play the wrong video games.
Well, there was I know it from watching the Destructoid show when it was on Revision 3. Like, he had a whole bunch of stuff. And so you start following John's story. And you go through basically when he first found himself. You know, hello?
In the biblical way?
Yes, sort of. And you realize, and they show a picture of him in the yearbook, and in the 10th grade, but it's his 9th grade photo. And this is him telling you this, and you're like, well, why? Because I guess he first learned to roll the dice in the 10th grade, and he entered the quiet in the 10th grade. And he he actually admitted that he was eye-ogling this one girl in the quiet. He would take photos, because he was in the yearbook team, the yearbook peoples. He would try to take photos, but didn't put two and two together that you take photos and you go to get them developed. It didn't work in the quiet. Until later, until I think after that year was up and all this stuff, and we're talking the classic, the whole dark room and all that stuff. But this is a good quarter of the issue, and so we get through all that, and then you get to where he gets this stalker vibe, where he goes to Kegleface's house.
Oh, nice.
Yes, she has this nice little family thing going on up top, sort of like a mullet, where it's family up front, sex dungeon in the back.
I, I don't want to say that I've been to that house, but I've been to that house.
Yeah, she's got this sex dungeon thing in the basement where I'm like, how have your kids not secretly walked into the sex dungeon and just found like stuff that Hustler is like, I'm sorry, this is too much. Like, like the kinky places are like, no, this is too far. And so he comes, and then one of the other guys, the fat guy, comes in and is like, hey, yeah, so because you remember the phone that goes ding whenever someone enters the quiet.
Yes.
That the fat guy heard the ding, and so he came over, and so John had to beat him up and knock him out or whatever, and so that's how they ended up to where he comes in going, I fucked up.
I just want to take a moment and pause in this second of time where we're talking about a book called Sex Criminals, and you say the line that is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. The fat guy hears the ding. I don't know why. That has affected my inner child in a way that I think it's moved out. I think it moved away. I think there we go. Now I had to leave town.
There's a great part in here where it's, oh gosh, what does it say? It's like he doesn't even say it, but it's like the dude I had to beat with a sex object or something like that.
Dude, not the dude I had the opportunity to beat with a sex object.
But I think that
I
was
had to go through a very strict interview process to get to be chosen for this elated duty.
Like in the previous issue, he had, like, while they were escaping, he beat him to run away from.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. But and then he came back because there's filing cabinets in the room, in the creepy dungeon area. Dungeon's a basement, but in the basement there's filing cabinets full of all these people like John and Susie. And so he comes running in with some toys, but I think it's mainly files. And because the first one he pulls out is Susie. And then he's like, I messed up, sort of deal. And so Matt and Chip are going somewhere really interesting. It started off a little slow.
Yeah, the first issue of the second arc was not my favorite. It got to a better point in the last couple pages, but it was a pretty, bleak, slow kind of issue, and but that happens. You can't keep building up. You have to drop to then be able to build up again.
Yeah, but no, it's built up pretty good so far, and I'm like, all right, when's the next one? But yeah, so it's been good. Quick picks. Inhumans #3 finally came out. I'm hoping that the what's the artist's name is over with soon, so we can get on a regular schedule. They did say 2 weeks, so fingers crossed he's out the door.
I believe that was the last issue, and that we get the new artist in the next issue.
All right, because that while it was a good story arc, or while it was a good story, it's just I want a regular schedule because Charles Soule is a great artist, is a great storyteller, and the Inhumans need especially if they're going to do a movie, and especially with what we saw with our story, the Inhumans need comics out there to hopefully get a boost like the Guardians are getting right now.
I almost would argue the opposite. I think that someone coming in who's not beholden to the comics at all, giving a new take on the concepts and stuff and the characters, can reinvigorate the comics. and we've seen that already. We saw what happened when Iron Man hit, how the basis for the character really got better. I think that there's sort of a purity of simplicity in the Marvel films that can come back. Now, I'm not saying that they've all gone in that direction, but I do think that there can be an advantage if they get the Inhumans right in the movies to make the Inhumans work better in the comics. I get why they're trying to make them big in the comics first, to kind of lead up to that. It certainly benefits the people who write the comics to have their storylines be adapted to the film. You get to show up in the movie, like J. Michael Straczynski got to show up in Thor. It happens for those reasons. Ellis gets mentioned in Iron Man 3, I think. But overall, if the movie does something great with the characters that the book just hasn't been able to do, then they just restart the book. It's not like Marvel's afraid of putting out a #1.
Yeah, I mean, but no, yeah. So, so those are the reviews. Next, let's do segment 3, and this one is all you. This is, What's Up Webcomics, another tribute to our. I'm gonna say, let's call him. What was Stan Lee's title over at Marvel?
It was like, he was a lot of things. I mean, I'm
like
still reading the history of Marvel Comics right now.
It's like the honorary title that means nothing.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's the chairman, or I can't recall now. It's
like something emeritus.
If you're saying that we are Glenn Rubenstein's true believers, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If we're in the bullpen, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But it basically, this is a tribute to Glenn Rubenstein, for What's Up Webcomics, because Glenn Rubenstein did a show on Spreecast called What's Up Weekend.
What's Up Weekly.
Right. Well, What's Up Weekend was the Friday show, and then we combined it.
That's right. We tried. We thought about combining it, but
yes.
We couldn't get the name changed because Spreecast is weird.
Yeah.
That's still a good place.
Yeah. So this.
I will say that if you have a confusion beyond that, why we have to give such a long explanation for the title of a single segment on a show that you've never heard of, anyways. Hey, it could have been worse because my original thought was to call it "Get Digi with It."
No. Hey.
I don't like how these are coming at my face.
But no, so this is all you, Corey. So take
maybe I'll read about that in the back of Sex Criminals at some point. Yes, that is me making kegels. So and we didn't really go into much of ourselves at the beginning, which is good. You're probably already sick of us. But I have written a webcomic. I've written some stuff for Sisters Comics, which was published. But I also write for Don't Ask Comics, and I do, though it's on a extended hiatus right now, I write for Levi Krause on his comic strip, Balyar. And our site still out there. You can go to Balyar, if you can spell that, .don'taskcomics.com and read the archives. It's got a good amount of information and stuff there. But we get our ads from Project Wonderful. And we get an ad also from comicrocket.com. But one of the ads that I saw pop up this week was for a new webcomic called Kappa. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. It looks like an easy enough word, but it's one of those things that can be very misleading. And it's by an artist named Wendy Martin. So it is a comic that relates to underwater creatures, sort of like mere people. According to the About page on our site, this comic is about kingdoms of mere people and their fight for survival against giant sea creatures and religious war. And it's one of those things, I see ads pop up all the time, and a lot of them are kind of the same things, but this one really kind of stood out to me. The art style was very dynamic and pretty, but she seems to kind of pull it back to be able to draw uglier characters and certainly uglier creatures. She made a comment on one of the pages that she put out that she redrew this sea creature 3 times because it kept looking too cute and she wanted it to look more threatening. Um, and the comic seems to have just started out. She's got a little bit of her buffer pages, and then she's just started a regular schedule, and I believe it's Mondays and Thursdays that it's going to come out, and she's got a 7-strip buffer right now, but she wants to get further ahead, which I've never experienced having a buffer on anything other than the first year of posting by R because it had all been done and printed already in another format, and then I just decided to put the site up for Levi to give him something that wasn't just a blog. But reading through the book, the comic, it's very interesting. It's still kind of like we're just developing on the characters. There's these 2 sea creatures who are sort of humanoid persona. One of them finds something buried in the sand, and it turns out that it's a body. And they kind of dig it out, and the other one decides, hey, we should use this for bait to catch one of the big eels that we want to kill, and I'm assuming eat. But they consume them for magic, I think. But when they dig the body out and they tie it up in the weeds and the creature comes out to get it, the body comes back to life, and they suddenly have this moral conundrum of do we help this creature or do we go with the original plan to kind of let it go? And so that's where we're at in the storyline so far. The body that they dig out looks much more humanistic mere person than they do. So I don't know if it's a different type. The way she's kind of described it is that it looks like it's going to go through and tell the storyline a little bit deeper where they're going to fight different creatures and stuff, and it's going to develop on. I got a feeling that it felt a little bit to me like it's probably going to be like one of those Nintendo RPGs, the classic ones like Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy, where the characters kind of quest to gain power and insights over time to get to the big sort of boss battles as they go along. But that's just me kind of estimating where it's going to go, because it's kind of hard to tell. We've only got 11 strips or so far. But Wendy's artwork is really amazing. I looked at her DeviantArt page, and just especially when she uses color, some really beautiful stuff. You get that kind of feeling of what you want to see in those underwater storylines, something you would imagine. Like if you go back to The Little Mermaid, which I was a big fan of, that undersea world has so many different colors because the fish, the scales, the plant life, everything kind of gets to be very different looking, and taking into account that there's not light down there, what you imagine there would be in if you had eyes that could see that kind of thing. So it's really beautiful stuff. She's from Iowa. She was a fine arts major. She's got an associate degree in fine arts. But this is her first foray into webcomics. It's her first title, and it's really good. I would definitely recommend following it. You can find it at www.kappacomic.com, and you can actually follow her Twitter at kappacomic, and she also has a Facebook page. But yeah, to get something just when it's starting out and that kind of raw newness, she's still kind of developing her web skills. I've definitely gone through that with the Don't Ask Comics site, and she's got a really good voice and a very particularly strong art style. So I can only imagine that she's going to get better from here, and I'm pretty excited. I actually asked her if there's a piece on her DeviantArt page that I'd like to see done as a poster, which is not from the comic, but just something I was really into. So I would be more than willing to support her work for this book and for other things. The book itself, when it gets to the point where it could be collected and maybe printed, I could really see being done through a company like Archaea or First Second Books, who do a lot of original graphic novel stuff, because it has that kind of, so far, an all-ages appeal without necessarily being made for kids specifically. And it's really gorgeous stuff. I would like to see it hit print and see how it looks transferred to the page.
Cool.
Yeah, that's mostly it.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I posted the links in the comment area thing, so Evan can easily do it. I already found one bummer thing about the comments deal. I had to do brackets around the word dot. Freaking YouTube.
Oh, that explains why nobody can do any kind of punctuation on YouTube comments. I've just been feeling like they were all idiots this entire time.
No, I put kappacomic.com, like actually like mail at ElseNerds.com sort of deal, and like how it is on our document page.
Yep.
It's like, nope.
Yeah.
You can't have anything. I'm like, all right.
You can't link. You can't put links, but you can put Twitter names.
Yep.
Because we know where our bread is buttered.
Yep. But yeah, so I think that about wraps it up for us.
That does give us a close to our inaugural. Is that the word? Show.
Yeah. Show. We're a little bit over. We're at a minute 25 right now, looking at the slight delayed version of the show. Since I have it running on the Mac, so I'm chatting with Evan right now.
We've been on the air for 1 minute and 25 seconds?
No, hour 25.
Oh, I was going to say, I felt like that went way fast. Okay, yeah, I didn't... we had talked...
Only if we were like the Matchbox car guy times 50.
Oh, yeah, the guy who played Blur on Transformers. That guy's awesome.
Yeah. So, do you want to close us out?
Well, yeah, I just want to say, definitely, if you saw this show, hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
How you doing?
And if you're interested in some of the stuff that we do, you could always check out our other show, which is What Else Is On. That will be recording Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. And you can also, I would highly recommend, check out GallacticNetcasts.com and see, as soon as Dave posts it, the episode of, what is it?
The Sci-Fi Geeks Club, where
Sci-Fi Geeks Club,
where you can hear this charming voice.
And
apparently
not see him this week.
Not this ugly face. No.
But you'll get to see the people like Dave, Brad, Anessa, and Matt, who were fantastic.
No,
and they
Matt
did
was
some
not
incredible.
on there.
Oh, Matt wasn't on this week. Well,
no,
in some of the other episodes, I highly recommend the one where their guest was Douglas Quaid.
Yes, and I can sort of hint at who is coming on this next week.
Please do.
It's the author of The Martian.
That is correct. Yes. I knew that was coming up. I was kind of wondering if you had gotten him pushed back or something. They were like, well, we got to get Gregor on here first.
No,
priority.
No, I believe what happened is they thought he was this week, but I don't know if he had to reschedule or whatever. But yeah, but it was sort of like, I don't know, Dave messaged me on Wednesday and he's like, hey, can you come do the show? I'm like, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
We were gonna
have a guest on the show before.
Yeah.
Our illustrious leader,
of Hefe
probably doesn't even want the credit. Glenn Rubenstein has done the show. Scott Johnson, Brian Brushwood. A lot of amazing people have been on there already, and I can't recommend Galactic Netcasts enough as just a great place with some fantastic people. So I would give them a recommendation anyways.
Yeah. And we're gonna do the winter movie draft here once the summer movie draft is over and it starts to be winter. We will definitely be doing it individually, of course, where I will dominate.
Okay, that's good. Like to see somebody get to nominate as opposed to, well, we were really close this time.
Well,
okay. Well, you can follow us on Facebook under
Facebook.com/ElseNerds-616, I believe.
Shows, because we have two. We went plural. Or you can follow our Twitter. It's very, very new, so there's not a lot there yet, at ElseNerds. You can also email us at mail@elsenerds.com with any thoughts or suggestions for things we can talk about in future episodes. And if you want, you can come back here 2 weeks, I think we talked about. We're going to try to do this maybe bi-weekly for a little while to see if we can catch ourselves and make it work.
Because it's an alpha, you know. I mean,
yeah.
Alpha, then you do betas, and then you do. Then if it's good enough, then we actually do the shows.
It's funny, we did more organization for this show than we've done for the 2 years we've been doing while we're watching weekly.
Yep.
But hey, everything's a first step. So we want to thank you for checking out our inaugural episode, 616. We know you have many choices when you fandom, and we appreciate you nerding out with us. So have a great week, and remember, please support your local comic shop. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. And remember, this has been a Don't Tell Glenn production.
Is this one?